What if the grain you are already buying at the feed store, the same grain your chickens and goats eat every single day, was something you could grow yourself in a pan, with little space for a fraction of what you are currently paying per bag? Not with a farm, not with expensive equipment, not with years of experience, with few grains, a small space, and a clear, simple understanding of exactly how much to plant, how to grow it, and how to use what you harvest. Since the fodder video went up, your comments have been coming in, and two questions keep showing up more than any others. The first one: can you use maize in a fodder system the same way you use barley? The second one: how much seed do I actually need? How much do I soak? How much do I feed? Give me the exact numbers. This video answers both of those questions completely. We are going to walk through barley and maize side by side, how each one behaves in a sprouting tray where they differ, what each one does nutritionally for your animals, and the exact measurements you need to run your system with confidence. Also, the clear, honest numbers you can apply to your specific flock or herd starting today. If you have not seen the original fodder video, I will link it in the description. That video covers the full tray setup, the daily routine, and the mold troubleshooting section. Watch that one first. This video builds directly on it. Here is what we are covering today. First, what makes barley and maize different as fodder grains and why both belong in your system. Second, how to sprout maize in a tray, what it needs, on where it behaves differently from barley, and what to watch for. Third, the measurement section. Exactly how much seed to soak per tray, per day, per animal, broken down by species. Fourth, how to feed both grains together so your animals get the full benefit of both. And fifth, the real numbers. What running a combined barley and maize fodder system actually costs per month compared to commercial feed. Let's get into it. In the fodder video, we established why barley is the gold standard for sprouted feed. It germinates reliably, it produces a dense mat, and its nutritional profile after 7 days of sprouting is genuinely impressive. Crude protein rises from around 12 to 13% as a dry seed to approximately 15 to 16% after sprouting. Digestibility of that protein nearly doubles. Vitamin E and beta-carotene increase significantly. For laying hens, milking does. And quail, the results show up in richer egg yolks, better coat condition, and improved milk quality. Maize does something different, and that difference is the reason you want both in your system. Maize is an energy grain. Its crude protein as dry seed is lower, around 8 to 9%, but its starch content and caloric density are significantly higher than barley. When maize is sprouted, that starch begins converting into simple sugars, making those calories more immediately available and more digestible for your animals. Research from the University of Arizona's Cooperative Extension on sprouted corn confirms that germination meaningfully improves both the digestibility of maize starch and the availability of key B vitamins, including thiamine and niacin, which support nervous system health and egg production. Think of it this way: barley builds your animals. Maize fuels them. In practice, a laying hen running on barley fodder alone is getting excellent protein, but may be slightly short on the quick energy she needs in colder months. Add maize fodder to the rotation, and you close that gap. Barley and maize together cover what neither one covers fully on its own. That is why this video pairs them. How to sprout maize in a tray. If you have been running a barley fodder system, the process for maize will feel familiar. But there are several important differences you need to know before your first tray, because maize behaves differently enough that applying the barley method exactly will give you poor results. Soaking time. Barley soaks for 12 hours. Maize needs longer. Soak whole maize kernels for 18 to 24 hours. The kernels are significantly larger and denser than barley, and they need more time to fully absorb water and begin the germination process. Drain and rinse thoroughly after soaking, exactly as you do with barley. Germination time. This is the biggest difference. Barley produces a visible sprout tail within 24 to 36 hours of going into the tray. Maize is slower. You expect the first sprout tails to appear at 36 to 48 hours and full even germination across the tray by day 3. Do not panic if your maize tray looks inactive on day 2. This is normal. The germination is happening inside the kernel before it becomes visible. Use the same shallow 1020 trays with drainage holes that you use for barley. Spread maize in a single, dense, even layer across the tray. Kernel touching kernel, but no stacking. Maize kernels are roughly 3 to 4 times the size of barley, which means a single layer of maize looks and feels much thicker. That is fine. What you are avoiding is double layering, where kernels sit on top of other kernels. The bottom layer will not drain or breathe and will mold. Harvest day. Barley is typically ready to harvest and feed at day 7. Maize takes a little longer to reach peak nutritional value. Harvest maize fodder at day 8 to 10 when the shoots are 2 to 4 inches tall and the root mat underneath has developed fully. The mat will not be as dense or as tall as a barley mat. Maize grows shorter and stockier. But the nutritional value at that stage is at its highest. One thing maize does not do. Maize does not produce the tight, peel-out-in-one-piece mat that barley does. A barley mat at day 7 is a firm, cohesive unit that lifts cleanly from the tray. Maize fodder at day 9 or 10 is looser and more like a clump of rooted sprouts than a mat. This is completely normal. It does not affect the feed quality at all. Just scoop the contents of the tray out and feed as you would a barley mat. Your animals will eat every part of it: roots, kernels, and shoots. The measurement section. This is the section many of you asked for specifically. So let me be as direct and clear as possible. I am going to give you the numbers by animal, broken down into seed per tray, trays per day, and daily fodder output. Take these numbers, apply them to your own animal count, and you will know exactly what your system needs to produce. 1 pound of barley seed produces approximately 6 pounds of sprouted fodder mat after 7 days. 1 pound of maize seed produces approximately 5 pounds of sprouted fodder after 9 days. The difference is because maize retains more of its original dry weight in the dense kernel. It does not produce as much green leaf volume per pound of seed as barley does. But that dense kernel also carries more calories, which is the trade-off. For a standard 1020 tray, you use 1.5 to 2 cups of dry barley seed, roughly 1/4 to 1/3 of a pound. That tray will yield approximately 1.5 to 2 pounds of sprouted barley mat at harvest. For maize, use 1 to 1.5 cups of dry corn per tray, roughly 1/4 pound. Maize kernels are larger and need more space to spread evenly without stacking. That tray will yield approximately 1 to 1.25 pounds of sprouted maize fodder. For chickens, a standard laying hen should receive approximately 1/4 pound of fodder per day as a supplement alongside her regular layer feed. For a flock of 10 hens, That is 2.5 pounds of fodder per day. For a flock of 25 hens, that is approximately 6 to 7 pounds of fodder per day. In tray terms, 10 hens, 1 to 2 trays harvested daily between your barley and maize system combined. 25 hens, 3 to 4 trays daily. For Coturnix quail, the daily amount per bird is much smaller, approximately 1 to 2 tablespoons of fodder per quail per day. A tray shared among 15 to 20 quail is appropriate. They are small birds with small daily requirements, but they respond to fodder enthusiastically, and the benefit to egg yolk color is very noticeable within a week or two. For Nigerian dwarf goats, a Nigerian dwarf doe should receive approximately 2 to 3% of her body weight in fodder per day as a supplement, not a replacement, alongside her hay. For a doe weighing around 65 pounds, that is approximately 1.25 to 2 pounds of fodder per day. For 2 does, you plan for 2.5 to 4 pounds of fodder daily. 1 tray of barley fodder per day comfortably covers 2 Nigerian dwarf does. Remember, hay stays in front of your goats, free choice at all times. Fodder works alongside roughage, not instead of it. The recommended blend. For most small homestead setups with a mixed flock and a pair of goats, a 2-to-1 barley to maize ratio works well in practice. Run 2 barley trays for every 1 maize tray. Your animals get the protein and digestive benefit of barley with the energy and caloric support of maize. You are not committing to equal amounts of both. You are using maize as the supporting grain in a barley-led system. The simplest way to feed both grains is to offer them in separate portions at the same feeding. Place the barley mat down first. Most animals will go straight for it. Set the maize fodder alongside. Chickens and quail typically eat both without hesitation and will work through the maize kernels last, since the sprouted shoots and roots go first. Goats may take a few extra days to accept the maize fodder if they have not had it before. A small drizzle of unsulfured blackstrap molasses over the maize tray for the first 3 or 4 days will get most does eating it readily. Once they have acquired the taste, the molasses is not necessary. If you want to simplify your feeding routine even further, you can combine both grains in the same tray at the soaking stage. Soak barley and maize separately, because they have different soak times, and then combine them in the same sprouting tray after soaking and draining. A 60-40 mix of barley to maize in 1 tray works well. The different germination rates mean your barley will be a little further along than your maize at harvest, but the animals eat the whole tray regardless, and the nutritional balance across the 2 grains is present in every feeding. Let me run the honest math for a setup most small homesteaders will recognize. A 25-bird laying flock and 2 Nigerian dwarf does. To feed that setup with a combined barley and maize fodder system at the rates described above, you need approximately 7 to 8 pounds of fodder per day. 6 to 7 pounds for the flock and 1.5 to 2 pounds for the goats. To produce 7 to 8 pounds of fodder daily, you need approximately 1 to 1.5 pounds of seed per day, mostly barley, with roughly 1/3 of a pound of that being maize. At current feed store prices, barley seed at around 30 cents per pound and maize seed at around 15 cents to 20 cents per pound. Your combined daily seed cost runs between 30 cents and 45 cents per day, or roughly $9 to $14 per month. Compare that to what you are currently spending. A 25-bird flock on commercial layer pellets alone typically costs $75 to $100 per month. 2 Nigerian dwarf dozen milk add another $20 to $30 per month in grain and supplement costs. That is $95 to $130 per month going out the door. A properly run barley and maize fodder system, replacing 40 to 50% of purchased commercial feed for both species, reduces that bill by $38 to $65 per month, or $450 to $780 over the course of a year. From a system that costs under $50 to build and under $15 per month to run. That is not a projection. That is the math on verified seed costs and confirmed feed reduction rates from documented homesteader and university research results. There is something worth saying about what happens when you add maize to your barley fodder system. The first time you set a maize tray down in front of your hens, watch what they do. They will go for those sprouted corn shoots with a kind of enthusiasm that is different from how they approach dry pellets. There is something about live, fresh, growing feed that animals recognize at a level that has nothing to do with how it was packaged or what it says on the label. Barley and maize together. 2 grains, 2 trays, 7 to 10 days. Everything your animals need to eat well, and everything you need to stop dreading the feed store receipt. If this video helped, share it with someone who is running livestock on a small property. And if your specific setup, your animal numbers, your measurements, your questions did not get answered here, drop it in the comments. I read every one of them. Subscribe if you have not, and I will see you in the next one.